Hey, Nick Friedell.
How we doing, guys?
What's going on? Hey, just so you know, you're live on the stream. We're back on the radio in about 40 seconds.
Awesome.
But you're live on the stream right now. How are you, man?
I'm good, buddy. It's good to be with you guys always.
Yeah, what's happening, man?
I was so happy when you texted me the other night.
Hey, a great tweet is a great tweet, but when it's coming from my boy about Mr. Tibbs, like that, it's funny. I sent it to a few of my buddies in all the different text chains who have like some tie to like the Tibbs experience, and they're like,
That's awesome.
Nick, I feel like...
Oh, hang on, we're coming back.
Now, back to the Insiders with James Ham and Kyle Madsen, brought to you by Jiffy Lube on ESPN 1320.
Yeah, James Ham there. I'm Kyle Madsen. Joe Brazil spinning on the ones and twos. And on the line is Audacy Sports NBA insider Nick Friedell. Insider calls are brought to you by Hyundai. You can buy a new Hyundai at Amazon. Visit HyundaiUSA.com for more details. Nick Friedell, everybody.
What's going on, Nick? Like, I'm curious, where are you in your house? Because I can't tell if those are drapes or a shower curtain.
Shower curtain.
Where are you in your home?
Mr. Ham, the best part is I am in San Diego, California, because I had flown out here to see my beloved Cubs, and I always try to get out to San Diego for this series every year if it's doable, and everything was looking really good for a few innings last night, and then that bullpen hit, and woof.
Yes.
You can't play the Sacramento A's every series.
Yeah,
that is for sure. That is for sure.
We've got play-in games starting tonight. Of course, we're talking with Nick Friedell, Audacy NBA insider. We got play-in games beginning tonight. It feels funny because in the West, the 7-8 matchup is like, man, if whoever wins this game has got a real shot against the Rockets, that young number 2 seed. Whereas in the East, it's Orlando and Atlanta playing to get boat raced by Boston. Does the winner of Orlando and Atlanta have any shot to give Boston a series?
Hell no.
Thanks, Nick.
Hell no. Yeah, that's why they pay me the big bucks, Mr. Madsen. Right there. Look, Orlando Atlanta is like a made for NBA TV play-in game. I know that that's not exactly how it's going to play out, but the winner of that game is just going to get absolutely demolished by Boston if they show up 4 times in a row. The hardest part as a fan watching how these playoffs are going to unfold in the East is, guys, assuming there's no injuries, it's going to be Boston and Cleveland. I just don't see any other way around a different scenario. They've been the class of that side all year long. The West is a completely different story, but when you try to find, all right, where could the upsets be and what could happen in these NBA playoffs, but especially in the East, Kyle, I don't see any way that those two teams aren't just a cut above everybody else playing against each other in a couple months.
You know, Nick, when I look at the Western Conference, you know, where the Kings are at is actually not that bad of a position. You've got the 7-8 matchup of Warriors, Grizzlies. I don't think either one of those teams we're 100% are convinced that are good. When you look at where the Kings are at, you know, they're going to play a Dallas Mavericks team that's in complete chaos and turmoil. There is like a small pathway here for the Kings to actually somehow make it to the playoffs, although it would be a short opening series. But just where are you with where the Kings are at, and what do you think? If you were predicting, what would you predict how this plays out in the next week?
James, I think they can win that first one. Dallas is just all over the place. I mean, Dallas is a case study for the play-in it keeps everybody involved. But as soon as they made that deal and people started getting hurt, I was like, all right, Dallas is done. Like,
Yeah.
whether or not they win this game, we'll see. But Dallas, talk to me next year about Dallas. But as far as the Kings go, is there that small path that you're describing? Sure. I think there is a possibility that they could find their way through into the first round. But guys, I haven't been with you in a couple months. I just am in total disbelief as it comes to Sacramento that the Kings front office looked at what happened with the Bulls in Chicago with DeRozan and LaVine. And they went, hey, you know what we should do? We should recreate exactly what we just watched for several years that just didn't work, that was supremely mediocre. We should run it back now. Like when that deal went down, the LaVine deal, I just shook my head. I'm texting our buddy Slater, and I'm going, what the hell are they doing? And you guys live it every day. I understand. I haven't been able to fully articulate just how mind-numbing I thought that whole thing was. But to see it now play out a couple months later, and to see the money that's still on that LaVine deal, to try to figure out where they're going, the Aaron's out of there, it is just a mess. And it's why they've been the way they've been for so long.
Audacy NBA insider Nick Friedell joining us. Insider Calls brought to you by Hyundai. Now you can buy a new Hyundai from the comfort of your new home at Amazon. Visit HyundaiUSA.com for more details. Yeah, man. And that's, I think with Sacramento specifically, I think the LaVine and DeRozan dynamic, we always talk about this with the Kings. There are nights where they're going to go into Cleveland and beat Cleveland. And then the next night beat Detroit in Detroit to cap a 6-game road trip. But we'll also watch them lose to Washington or smoke a 19-point lead at home to the Bulls. Was that how it was with LaVine and DeRozan in Chicago, where one game they would look like, man, they might make a run, like, oh my God. And then the next night look like a team that could be in the lottery?
Yes. Absolutely yes. Kyle, what I would tell you, and it's funny you mentioned that Cleveland game. I'm sitting in like a tiny Italian restaurant outside Jacksonville, Florida.
As one does.
As one does. And I look up on the screen, and the bartender must have had a ton of something on Kings Cavs, that game from a couple weeks ago. And I'm watching, and I'm like, exactly. It's like, well, everybody's got their thing, and he was into that game. But I'm watching that game, and I'm like, I've seen this game. I watched this game watching the Bulls in Chicago for a long time, even keeping up with that team. Those guys are fun to watch when it's rolling. And, of course, the Kings aren't just DeRozan and LaVine. I mean, there are other players and there are other reasons why always. But they can beat anybody. But the consistency just isn't there. I mean, the issues with LaVine's defense have been on full display for years and years. As I watch from a distance now at what's going on in Sacramento, and it goes back to Mike Brown getting fired, giving him the contract, getting fired. You just look at what's going on, and you're like, this is why they are the way they are. This is why it's been set up the way it has for so long. And this is why so many people look at that situation and they go, well, the Kings are going to find a way to screw it up. And when that whole thing went down, I was just going, okay, well, they just set themselves back another couple of years. Like, if you're going to trade De'Aaron, get back all the young pieces, all the different things, but to pair up DeRozan and LaVine again, you got to be kidding me.
Wow. I feel like we should have had him on when the trade happened, because I kept saying the same exact thing and no one was listening. They're like, come on, man, give it a shot. Like, this has got a chance. And I'm like, no, they're the Bulls West Coast. They're the Bulls West Coast, like, version. Like, what are we doing here? And it's played out like I've never seen two players that, again, one night can look just brilliant together. And then the next night, it looks like a big brother, little brother situation so badly, where it's just like they're in the back seat. And, there are times where you're sitting with your brother in the back seat of the car, your parents are driving, and you're watching a movie together and everything's quiet. And then 5 minutes later, you're beating on each other in the back seat, like pulling each other's hair and like wet willies and all that. So that's what it feels like when you're watching them play. It's just, I don't know how to explain it except for it's two guys that, well, one guy specifically that doesn't feel like he wants the other guy to succeed sometimes. And that's what it feels like to me.
James, I think that's very well put, and I'd add there's always a mom driving, usually in the driver's seat, or a dad that my mom would cry when my brother and I would beat the hell out of each other, and my dad would be like, "What the hell are you guys doing?
Knock it off!
What the hell are you guys doing?" So when you watch the structure of the team building, you just go, why? And you just wish, because I've known you guys for a long time. I know how many loyal Kings fans there are out there. I mean, truly, like, there are a ton of loyal people that follow that team day in and day out. But when you make moves like that, when you give Mike the contract extension, then you can him with all that money. Come on. This is why they are who they are. And that deal and that pairing, James, to your point, is another reason why who knows what can happen in these playing games. Maybe they can win a couple games and get in the first round. Sure. Hey, this is fun. Let's go try to light the beam. Okay. But how are you any closer to a championship than you were at any other point? You're just not.
Man, it's depressing.
Yeah, let's bring up good news.
This is a huge bummer. No, I want to real quick. I want to ask you about the other playing game tonight in the West, but I want to stick on tomorrow's game, Mavs Kings. What's the deal with Nico Harrison deciding to do an impromptu press conference with no cameras, invite only? What? Huh? Like, you want to talk about dysfunction? What is that?
Kyle, it's the mirage of transparency. It's getting into the news cycle, but not really, because, hey, we don't have cameras and you can't really record anything. And we're only inviting selected media. That kind of stuff just drives me insane. As a journalist, as somebody who spent years covering the league, what you're trying to do is get your message out, but you're not being fully transparent about how you're going about it. And what I would say to the Mavericks, and they aren't alone. I mean, plenty of teams do weird stuff like this. I know the Nuggets just put Kroenke on like their in-house thing and had an interview, and then like a week later, okay, well, he did a press conference. It's just different now. But what I would say to the Mavericks specifically is, if you're going to have a press conference, have a press conference. Let people ask questions. Let the messaging get out there. Let everybody see what's going on. To do it this way just feels too secretive. It feels like you're hiding something. And if you're the Mavericks, you have pissed off your fan base to the highest possible power. I mean, we're sitting here. I'm feeling bad for the Kings fan base. You imagine being a Mavs fan? I think that's actually worse, which is really something to say given where they were only a few months ago. So it's a mess back there, and I don't see that getting better anytime soon because of the decisions that were made.
Yikes.
Okay, so it sounds like, again, I think the Mavs are a total mess, but this offseason feels like it could also be just another wild season of change. I don't know that Anthony Davis is long for there. What do you think? How do they pull out of this tailspin that they're in? Because we could talk about the same thing about the Kings, but the Kings, I think, is a lot more difficult because they have Zach LaVine, they don't have Anthony Davis to trade.
That's one of the most depressing sentences of the year in sports radio, right there, Mr. Ham. Yikes! I feel bad. Oh, my friends in Sacramento, I feel bad. if you're Dallas, though, let's stick to Dallas. If you're Dallas,
Yes.
if I'm that front office of Nico Harrison, you get out of the Anthony Davis deal and you just start fresh. It's going to be tough ego-wise to acknowledge, hey, we really screwed this up completely. The amount of season ticket holders that it feels like are pulling back, or everybody's kind of jumping off. I would trade Anthony Davis and get back everything you can. Again, the saddest part is you're trading all these picks potentially and getting all these young players back. You want to find a Luka Doncic. You had him and you gave up. So in order to win in the NBA and in pro sports, you have to have structure top to bottom with people on the floor, in ownership, in the front office, all doing their job in the same way at a high level. When you don't have that, you have the messes that we're describing here.
And as we talk with Nick Friedell, Audacy NBA insider, and the problem there is there's not only the ego hit for Nico Harrison and the Mavs front office to go, hey, we made a mistake, we're going to trade Anthony Davis. You're probably going to wind up getting more for Anthony Davis than you got for Luka in the first place, which would be a whole other problem. I don't think anybody would be like, wow, what a great haul for Anthony Davis. It'd be like, you got this for Anthony Davis. Why didn't you get more for Luka?
Kyle,
there's no winning here.
The way that was handled was something that they'll truly be writing books about. I mean, my buddy Tim McMahon, he wrote a book, but you could write a whole different one in the last 3 months of what's going on. So they messed it up. They messed it up at a historic level. In order to fix what's happening now, though, you have to acknowledge that. And that's what they've got to do this summer.
We can't keep you all day. Let's finish with a positive note, right? Yeah, let's just finish with a positive note. So you didn't make it out for the A's Cubs series. What are your thoughts on baseball in Sacramento?
I am so mad having spent time in the Bay, and I lived in Oakland that first year when I was covering the Warriors. I'm just so mad at how baseball handled that whole situation. And James, what was sad to me is I was actually trying. I flew to Tokyo. I'm a diehard Cubs fan. Diehard my whole life. That is my team. I flew to Tokyo with my mom. I went to those Dodgers games.
Oh, cool.
They lost, but it was an incredible thing. I was trying to get back to Sacramento, but the ticket prices for that first game were, insane. I'm like, look, I'll be going to an A's game this summer, but I don't, as much as I want to see the Cubs, I'm not going to pay all that craziness to get in there on game one. But what is sad is it just feels like, and again, you guys live it every day. It feels like in the beginning, everybody was into it and they were packing the park. And as the weeks have gone by, I keep seeing these pictures get tweeted out. And I'm like,
You're still winning some games, man.
I hate for my friends who are still out there the way the A's situation was handled. Sacramento, if you're a baseball fan, it's incredible. You get to watch a major league talent in a minor league park. That's awesome. But to have that team with the way they've been run for so long, who knows if they're ever going to end up in Vegas. But to drop a team in a place where I know people do care about baseball, but they've had the River Cats for so long. I mean, it's such a strange situation always, and it ties into the theme of our conversation today, guys. If you don't have the right people making the right decisions up top, you're going to have big problems as it filters down, and that's where the A's are at.
Last thing, real quick, we're right up against it. Who wins the Magic Hawks game?
I'm not going against my Magic. I'm a proud Orlando native.
Of course, yeah, no doubt.
Big Caro, let's go. I think they can get through that. They're going to get popped. I am curious, guys. Warriors, what happens with them? They had their chance to get that week, and I think that's really going to hurt them trying to move forward now.
Yeah. Do they get Memphis tonight?
I think they can, because I think Draymond will carry them all the way through, because he knows, hey, I need those 5 or 6 days to lay low. But I've felt from the
Yikes.
beginning their best chance to win was next year when they can load up that roster just a little bit more. Not right now.
No doubt. Nick Friedell, one of the very best Audacy NBA insider. Thank you so much for hopping on with us today, man. We'll do it again soon.
Guys, it was great being with you. See ya.
Nick Friedell, that was Audacy Sports NBA insider Nick Friedell. Insider calls are brought to you by Hyundai. Now you can buy a new Hyundai at Amazon. Visit HyundaiUSA.com for more details. We'll have more NBA playoffs, NBA play-in. We'll have some NFL draft. We got some exciting NFL draft news. We'll tell you what it is next. That's James Ham. I'm Kyle Madsen. Joe Brazil's with us. We're sponsored by Jiffy Lube here on ESPN.